Hisperia Clovis the Wise, the primarch of the Wise Men or Knights Templar, was found on the planet of Hisperia by herbalist human parents. Hisperia was a thriving planet before the Dark Age of technology. As society began to deteriorate and the populace began to become more and more superstitious, a group of scholars interested in preserving as much of the technology as they could went underground and, working from the damaged STCs, wrote down as much knowledge as they could before even the secrets of electricity were lost. These scholars, calling themselves the Wise Men, created the Library of Alexandria. They continued to monitor and catalogue the situation. When a great famine struck the planet, resulting from the aftermath of the destruction of a large power plant that clouded the sun of Hisperia, the Wise Men of Hisperia felt the need to leave their enclave and save the planet. They hoped that by using science and knowledge to solve the famine, that the people would begin to accept science and logic once again. In case they did not return, they sealed the library by using various puzzles that only someone with a knowledge of mathematics and science could access. Hisperia had degraded culturally and technologically into a Dark Age level of technology of Earth. When the populace saw these wise men in strange clothing grow food out of poisoned soil, they burned them at the stake for witchcraft. Clovis was found centuries later after the destruction of the Wise Men. He was endowed with the Emperor's thirst for knowledge, and particularly his aptitude for science. This, combined with his adopted parents' jobs as herbalist healers, influenced Clovis. He began developing basic Newtonian ideas a few years after his discovery. He shunned the religious teachings of his parents. Clovis was hunted by a mob into a network of caves after he took vials of blood from children to develop his understanding of biology. Clovis stumbled upon a cave unlike the others. It was finely carved, and Clovis was able to solve the puzzles that would open the doorway to Alexandria. He spent days indulging in the vast knowledge of Alexandria before returning to his home. When he returned to his parents' home, he found it burnt and his parents hanged. Feeling a deep rage that he had not known before, he buried his parents observing their religious ceremonies and returned to Alexandria, when he began to study weaponry. Clovis managed to craft rudimentary armour and a firearm. He spent weeks planning his revenge, and when he was ready, Clovis slaughtered the entire village and burnt it to the ground. It was in the ashes and among the dead of the people he had known his whole life and that had betrayed him that he swore to end this superstition. He began by conquering small village by small village, eventually catching the notice of the nobles. Friendly to moderate religious beliefs of his parents and hostile to extreme superstition of his village, he found allies among some of the members of the clergy, who rallied the peasantry against the nobles. Clovis outfitted them with superior weapons and armour, easily defeating the armies of the nobility. Clovis conquered his nation, and then his continent, and finally all of Hisperia. It was when he sat coronated upon his throne as Emperor of all Hisperia in the grand cathedral of its largest city that the Emperor of mankind revealed himself. Clovis and the Emperor spoke for 3 days in the grand cathedral, and others spoke of what they discussed that day, but when they exited, Clovis bowed before the Emperor in front of all of his people. The Emperor, however, was not pleased with his son's religious tendencies, and demanded that he tear down every church and cathedral on the planet, else the Emperor ordered Guilliman or Rust to destroy them in his name. Clovis, conflicted but obedient to his father, ordered the churches and cathedrals torn down. Because of his outstanding aptitude for science, he was given the name the Wise, and given control of the 11th Legion. He named his legion after the scholars who sealed Alexandria, the Wise Men. His legion had a particular aptitude for knowledge as well as powerful psychic abilities, and consequently was severely hindered by the proclamation of Nicaea. Clovis felt the most affinity with Perturabo, Magnus Red, and even had a fondness for Lorgar. Clovis and his legion, renowned for their abilities but also severely hindered by the proclamation of Nicaea, were taken off the front line of the Great Crusade to help the Adeptus Mechanicus and the Emperor work on the Golden Throne. During the tests of the Golden Throne, Clovis and his legion were tasked with entering the Webway. It was through entering the Webway, in combination with several extremely rare astronomical events, that caused Clovis and his legion to appear in the same physical location, but in an alternate universe, one in which there was no Adeptus Astartes, no Emperor of Mankind, and extremely weak forces of chaos. In this alternate universe, humanity mastered the use of webway travel before the warp storms became so severe. This meant that the loss of warp travel for this alternate universe was an inconvenience rather than a civilization-shattering event. Without an Emperor and Astartes to control them, this alternate universe used an iron-fisted theocracy to not only keep moral control over millions of worlds, but also contain the chaos-feeding habits and feelings that humans radiate within the Immaterium. What Clovis and his psychers learned upon their arrival was that nearly all humans in this alternate universe were nulls. Clovis, cut off from the Emperor and always having a softness towards religion, decided to take up a banner of this new faith and return to his universe to show his father how they could defeat the forces of chaos once and for all, using a religion that would teach virtues that would severely hinder the Chaos Gods. With the advanced technology of this alternate universe, this alternate Imperium could recreate the accident to send Clovis and his legion along with several members of the clergy. This, however, would be a one-way trip, as the chances of such an accident happening again to Clovis and his legion to transport them to this specific alternate universe were quite literally 1 in an infinity. Nonetheless, Clovis convinced that his father would thank him for this revelation, and went through with the process, returning to his home universe. When he arrived back in the throne room, he and his legion had been missing for months, but the Emperor, not wanting to reveal Clovis' involvement or his legions in working with the Golden Throne and the Webway project, had the records of their existence erased from Imperial records. When Clovis informed the Emperor of his discoveries, the Emperor refused to believe it, telling his son that he had witnessed the horrors of religious dogma, and would not change the Imperial truth to accommodate Clovis or his legion. The Emperor attested that the only reason that this alternate universe were free from the forces of chaos were because they were nulls. Angered by this refusal, Clovis argued with the Emperor for hours until they came to blows. The Emperor, far exceeding Clovis in strength, beat him easily and banished him and his legion from the Imperium, ordering them never to return on pain of death. Enraged by his defeat and by what he perceived to be the same type of betrayal he experienced from his village, Clovis vowed revenge and went to Lorgar. Lorgar, however, rejected Clovis' religious beliefs as superstition, vehemently defending the idea that it was the Emperor and not some mystical human deity that was the true hope for the Imperium. Clovis, spurned by the only fellow Primarch he felt who would join him, had insult added to injury when Lorgar informed him that him and his religion had not only been deleted by Imperial records, but their statue in the Imperial Palace was torn down and that all the Emperor's sons were instructed to never speak of Clovis or his legion again. Further enraged, Clovis and his legion retreated to Hisperia, where they began preparing their forces. The clergy from the alternate universe declared a crusade upon the entire universe. The 11th Legion repainted their armour from the blue and yellow colours of the Wise Men and the crook staff of their symbol to white and gold with the red symbol of their new religion upon their armours, painted over the Imperial Aquila as an insult to the Emperor and the Imperium, calling themselves the Knights Templar after the old crusading order on Earth. During the Horus Heresy, the Knights Templar fought the forces of chaos almost exclusively. Because Clovis had not been seen since the heresy, rumours are that he was murdered by Lorgar after he tried to convince the Primarch to join him. Clovis declared Lorgar as a traitor to all of humanity and a battle ensued. Others claim that he escaped, but as no one in the Imperium has seen him since, most think Lorgar did in fact murder him.